Hi, it's Ileana. Today I'm remote viewing the Rendlesham forest incident and what had happened there in 1980. Rendlesham Forest Incident, December 1980, Suffolk, England. Surface record physical plane. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodridge reported strange lights in the Rendlesham Forest over multiple nights for December 26th to December 28th. Descriptions included a glowing triangular craft, strange markings on trees, scorch burn impressions on the ground, animals in distress, and radio interference. The official MOD stance, no defense significance. The cultural tag, Britain's Roswell. Remote viewing scan layer 1 shows the initial contact. Object origin, not a traditional nuts and bolts craft. Instead, it appears as a conscious probe node, a crystalline plasma vessel partially phase shifted. So it was phase shifted. Composition, geometric core, a triangular prism-like wrapped in a plasma corona. So its geometric core was a triangular prism-like object wrapped in a plasma corona. The object wasn't fully in our timeline. Its edges flickered like light through water. Why it was there, it wasn't random. Rendlesham was chosen because of the ley line, intersections, and an underground resonance node in the forest. A memory gate that had been dormant since Druidic times. The craft was anchoring to test the node. Remote viewing scan, layer 2, human interaction. Personnel perception. First responders were Penniston and Burroughs and others. They approached and entered a field where their perception was altered. The air felt electrically charged, like static clinging to the skin. That's interesting. So the air had been electrically charged, like static clinging to the skin with that kind of a vibration. Their neurological fields were entrained, creating time distortion. Minutes felt like hours. Symbols on craft. The glyphs Penniston later drew weren't mere markings. They were coordinate lattice codes, a hybrid between a star map and a temporal address. Touching them initiated a data dump via resonance transfer. Penniston's later memories of binary code are a bleed through of this download. So I guess Penniston received later memories of having binary code from this triangular crystalline plasmatic craft as bleed through of this download. The binary wasn't random. It encoded future Earth coordinates and planetary alignment markers. Biological effect. Burroughs' cellular DNA showed unusual shifts decades later. Declassified VA medical report has interesting information that is consistent with biophotonic imprinting, and there was a lot of radiation which caused some of these witnesses to have heart problems, and the VA records were classified for a very long time, so they couldn't seek medical help to treat the conditions. At this point, they've been treated, but they had a lot of issues gaining access to the VA records of these airmen. The beings, non-visible to most but faint silhouettes, show up in the remote scan. They were light-encoded intelligence forms, not physical grays, but projected operators using the craft as an interface. So they weren't grays, not gray ETs. They were different types of beings that can phase in and out of timelines, future, present, past, to anchor and encode energy to help balance and stabilize the earth so that it's here in the present and in the future and that it's whole and it's not damaged. That's what I'm seeing in this remote viewing energy of who these beings are, who they are, their light encoded intelligence forms. Remote viewing scan, layer 3, underground resonance. Beneath Rendlesham sits an ancient crystalline node, part of a geomantic network tied to Stonehenge and Orkney. The craft wasn't malfunctioning, it was anchoring a signal into this node, effectively pinging Earth's geomagnetic memory archives. This node also had an Atlantean link, a memory vault from pre-Diluvian civilizations, left encoded in the bedrock. The interaction was less about ET landing and more about temporal calibration, anchoring their presence to human consciousness, awakening around the 1980s. Remote viewing scan layer 4, timeline ramifications. Why 1980? This was a pivot point in Cold War escalation, nuclear triggers in Europe. The craft appeared to check how human military command would respond to direct anomalies. The binary download hints at future contact nodes, years when consciousness tipping points would occur, starting at 2012, 2025, and 2033, which are highlighted. The being's new military command would cover up the case, but the seeds were planted in witnesses' neurology for activation later. Entity transmission, felt message. When tuned to the presence behind the craft, the resonance translates as, "We are not arriving, we are remembering with you. The forest holds your forgotten archives." Touch is the key. We seed memory into carriers so that when the sky fractures, your kind will recognize what you already are. Closing view. The Rendlesham incident wasn't just lights in the forest, it was a timeline marker event, a plasma craft acting as a probe, half in and half out of our dimension. Human witnesses entrained to anchor data. Ancient geomantic sites reawakened. A coded download pointing to future awakening cycles. The cover-up ironically preserved the mystery. So it preserved the mystery long enough for it to bypass standard erasure, ensuring the resonance stayed alive into the present. Now, let's step into the binary download that Jim Peniston reported from touching the craft. Remote view style will decode it not as just ones and zeros, but as a resonance chart where binary equals signal anchor points equals coordinates plus time markers. Rendlesham binary download timeline resonance chart. Context: Peniston's binary notebook, written years later, was partially decoded by researchers into geographic coordinates. Example: Sedona, Great Pyramids, Nazca, Mount Tashan, and High Brazil, etc. These were not random. They correspond to geomantic nodes plus timeline anchors. When cross-referenced with resonance fields, they map to human awakening thresholds. Timeline resonance chart, 1980 contact moment, Rendlesham itself, activation of memory carriers, Peniston, Burroughs. Resonance meaning, the first ping into the Cold War era, tests of how military structures deal with ultra-terrestrial bleed-through. The appearance of that crystalline triangular craft at Rendlesham Forest to see how these Air Force operators would respond to it. 1991 to 1993 grid. Reopening. Coordinate Nazca Peru binary data match. Event node subtle geomagnetic shifts plus rise of UFO disclosure subculture after USSR collapse. Resonance meaning Atlantean sky glyphs resonating with human aerial surveillance consciousness. So the Nazca lines in Peru, they're some of that origin of those glyphs comes from the Atlantean sky glyphs resonating with human aerial surveillance consciousness. Finally, picking up these Nazca lines as we evolve to see what we can surveil through aerial video photography, etc. So it's Atlantean sky glyphs. So Atlanteans had colonies at Nazca, Peru as well. And it could be these Nazca lines, they could be from other ancient civilizations as well, but some of it is Atlantean sky glyphs. 2001 to 2003, shock point, coordinate, Great Pyramids of Giza, binary data match, event node, 9/11 global shock, Iraq war, ancient Sumerian Atlantean vault region. Resonance meaning forced acceleration of planetary focus on the Middle East equals return to cradle, hidden archives stir. 2012 crystalline awakening cycle. Coordinate Sedona, Arizona, binary match, event node, Mayan calendar, end date cycle. Global meditation spike, crystalline grid activation. Resonance meaning human collective subconsciousness expecting something. Reality field softened, mass awakenings increased. The expectation of something is a new ascension process happening. That's what I'm picking up. The energies ramping up of more ascension, more of us waking up and coming online to be aware who we are galactically as galactic beings and what's around us in 4D, 5D, picking up those energies and seeing into 4 and 5D beyond the 3D. That's the pivotal point of what that crystalline awakening cycle means. Having that mass awakening increase to that level where you can see in other realms, dimensions, and your abilities activate more. So that's what happened. 2025 present resonance node now. Coordinate High Brazil, legendary sunken island appeared in the binary. Event node, a resurfacing of Atlantean memory currents. Disclosure tipping points, return of crystalline vault technologies. Resonance meaning, this is the Rendlesham seed fully sprouting. Those encoded in 1980 carriers awaken now, seeding global consciousness with the memory archive. 2033 future seed coordinate Mount Tashan, China, binary match, event node, future, large-scale Earth ET synthesis event, consciousness integration with ultra-terrestrial lineages, resonance meaning the Sky Emperor's seat, Taoist reference becomes literal, a planetary council linking Earth with star networks. Beyond 2015 coded but faint, additional nodes point toward South Atlantic anomalies and Antarctic crystalline gateways. Suggests a post-disclosure integration phase where Earth reclaims its role in the galactic lattice. So there's Antarctic crystalline gateways and South Atlantic anomalies, where there's gateways where energy comes in and the gateways are activated and we have more remembrance and awakening of who we are and what's happening on the planet. So here we're going to take a look at the visual mapping simplified of these dates. 1980, Rendlesham memory seeding, 1991 Nazca grid reopening, 2001, Giza, Shock Cradle Return, 2012, Sedona Crystalline Awakening, 2025, High Brazil Atlantean Resurfacing Tipping Point, 2033, Tashan Planetary Council Star Network Contact through Tashan Mountain in China, 2050, Antarctic South Atlantic Crystalline Gateways. So, closing note, the binary wasn't just future coordinates, it was a timeline harmonic script marking points where Earth's collective resonance shifts dramatically. Each coordinate equals a geomantic node, each year equals a trigger point for awakening, for ascension, for different things being activated on Earth, where we experience more of the aspect of 4D, 5D, and not just normal 3D. The Rendlesham craft wasn't warning or predicting. It was implanting a map into human carriers so we'd remember the future when those nodes arrived. And the future is now. We are experiencing high activation points, and this is a crucial time in our history. So that's what was supposed to be awakened during the Rendlesham forest incident where this crystalline craft appeared, and this is what it looks like. It had a kind of a bluish energy, purple bluish energy with white, and it had all these glyphs around it, and some of them imprinted on the trees. So that's what it looks like, what that craft looked like and still looks like, because it still exists. Not in 3D world, but in another dimensional node where it went back to. So I wanted to share that remote viewing of what happened at Rendlesham in 1980 in the forest incident with this type of a craft. Thank you so much.